Thanks for coming over. This is Amodeus. Today's Dungeon Hunter Champion videos for everyone asking for Steel Widow beginner guides post update 5. So, if you are an existing member of the community who's been playing for a while, it's really important that you contribute down in the comments for anything that I might have missed, your suggestions, your experiences, because the goal of this video is really for us to be able to have something that we can share with confidence that's a good up-to-date primer for new folks just getting started, whether they're in our guilds, on our friends list, in chat, wherever. Because I get asked this a million times a week, like, oh, is there an updated version of this or of that? And it's really hard because some of the content online is outdated. Now, that's for the existing members of the community. If you're a new player, ask questions, man. It's totally okay. It's a totally open environment. No questions dumb. We'll try to get to them. We'll try to answer all the questions, right? The community, myself, whatever it takes. We'll try and answer your questions. But I also want you to contribute. Share your learnings as you get past these areas. Did something not work for you? Did something we didn't talk about work exceptionally well? You know, and as always, seek out other sources of current information to give you perspective. Like I said, there are a load of videos out there that are just out of date. And this includes some of mine from last year. But I haven't had the time to go through and curate the 200 videos or whatever we've done so far. But maybe at some point in the future, we'll be able to get through there, because I fully 100% understand that some of that stuff is very confusing, especially with ongoing damage and some other things. And like I said, that's really important that you get out there and look at other perspectives, because nobody's word's law. Like, everybody has a different opinion, and the goal is just to help you have fun, right? To help you progress. So, first things first, let's talk about it. Why bother doing Steel Widow? Isn't Elder Drake enough? Well, the answer is pretty simple. No. Steel Widow gives you the best gear in the game. It's called Adept, and you need it for basically every champion. There's very few exceptions to the rule for that. And the exceptions are usually for those champions that work best on mortal gear. And guess what? Mortal gear, it's also in Steel Widow. So you're going to be spending a lot of time here for all of your progress in DHC when it comes to getting new gear. Now, what I would say is that if we want to jump into Steel Widow, you got to understand it's going to be a lot different than Elder Drake. Elder Drake is simply way easier. Now, this may not seem to be as relevant for the first few levels, as the floor difficulties have been toned down significantly. But the new mechanics will sneak up on you quickly. So it is best to be prepared and not waste resources building units that won't work later on. Now, on the screen, what you see are the champions from the Path to Glory. Now, you'll receive, so far in this game, all of these units except Rota just by doing those quests. Now, Rota, you can receive from a recruit code. Mine's in the description. But let me tell you, if someone invited you to the game, if someone's really helped you out in the guild, use theirs, man. Give them the rewards. But basically, anyone's will work. Just remember, you have to use it before level 10 to get the reward. So don't sleep on this. Now, the units up here should be 4-star maxed or higher, right? They should all have +9 vital gear with all HP %, except Rota. And Rota's going to be more of a attack build. Probably still all vital +9, perhaps +12, and she's going to be on attack speed, crit damage, attack, or attack speed, crit rate, attack, or maybe just attack speed, attack. It really depends on what you've been lucky enough to get when you were farming scenarios in the first few layers, or the first few levels rather, of Elder Drake. Now, in all honesty, she's your main DPS, your main farmer, so she should have the pick of your best attack gear right now and in the future until you get some other champions that can exceed doing what she does. But I'll tell you, there's very few that do that. Now, that said, there are certain roles when going into Steel Widow that must be fulfilled. So the first role is sustain. Most commonly, this will be a healer or multiple healers early game. Multiple healers will help dramatically. Even if they have weak heals, having multiple of those on your team helps a lot. So on this team, that's actually what we do. We have Zircon, who heals, Xenia, who heals, and Monis, who heals. So next we need to look at damage. How are we going to deal damage? So we're going to deal damage with Rota. Rota's your main damage dealer. And you have a support champion in the form of Mojo that's going to help you deal more damage, because in his support role, he's going to give you the ability to hit harder and do more damage through a buff called Attack Power Buff. Now, keep this in mind because when we talk about upgrades for the units you see on the board right now, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, as you can see, this team composition or team comp gets a lot of buffs. And this is really important as you really need these buffs to sustain you until you can get better adept gear. So as far as the waves goes, these are very similar to the other Drake, but that's pretty much where the similarities will end. Remember, you have to go through 6 waves of minions before you can get to the boss. And then when you get to the boss, the name of the game is survivability. Nobody can die. When a unit dies in the Steel Widow, she's going to strafe the entire board with lasers that do massive damage every time someone dies. So if she strafes because someone died and that kills someone else, she's going to keep doing that, right? Every time someone dies, she's going to strafe. And basically what that means is that's a wipe, right? Now, what I will say is that what makes this worse is if you take too long in Steel Widow, she strafes anyway, right? And that's why defense is important. That's why having sturdy champions built on HP is important. That's why it's important to have so many healers. The immunity is important because not only is that strafe going to do massive damage to you just cause, but if you have any debuffs like the little white drops, which is called ongoing damage, the Steel Widow does more damage during the strafes to all of the affected champions, which raises the chance of wiping. So once again, that immunity now is super important. Now, you're probably already thinking, well, if it's going to go off anyway, I just got to kill it fast. I just got to do a lot of damage. I'm just going to fill this team with a whole bunch of damage dealers and a healer, and I'll be fine. Not so fast, okay? You are correct, but that is where the rest of the Steel Widow mechanics come into play. The Steel Widow will put up a shield, which absorbs your attacks. It'll put up invulnerability to prevent all damage. It'll put up immunity to prevent you from debuffing her. And on top of all that, she cleanses all debuffs a few seconds before putting those buffs up. So this is why we brought a unit that can remove buffs from the Steel Widow. On this particular team, it's Xenia. Now, we also want to prevent those buffs from going on after the cleanse and after Xenia has stripped them off. And that's why we brought a champion with buff block. The buff block will stop the shield, the immunity, and invulnerability from being applied. And this is why we brought Amodeus. In addition to the fact he's got a great synergy trait that increases everybody's access to their skills. That's called skill cooldown. It's amazing. Now, because we have these units in place to take care of the Steel Widow buffs, we can focus on bringing in champions that increase our overall damage, right? So I know that the defenses and the way that she attacks are going to be mitigated because of the things that we just talked about as far as buff block and stripping. But in the beginning, the easiest way to do more damage is by bringing champions that have lower defense, attack power increase, and attack speed increase. Now, the individual champions on this team contribute a portion of each one of those elements, and then all together you're able to provide everything you need to maximize your damage. And there's a couple of tweaks you can make later on. If you have certain units that'll up that even more, but for right now, this is exactly what you're looking for. So when we beat Steel Widow, we're going to get some gear, right? Now, early game gear is way different than late game gear, but a couple of things to keep in mind to help you get started is like what you see on the screen. This is early game gear we just got, right? And I know you're thinking it's only 3 stars, but it's adept. And it's one of the percent, and it's not one of the percent gear slots, like the shoulder glove or bracer. So that means you can put this on with very little impact to your champion overall, right? And if you can, in the beginning, start replacing the necklace, helmet, chest piece with adept, it means you only have to replace one of those percent gear slots to get the full benefit of adept. And so there's less drop off between applying adept and keeping those like 5-star HP percentage vital gear sets on your champions, right? So when we have adept on our champions, like for instance, if we put adept on Xenia, that means she's going to heal more, strip more, lower defense more. She's going to do cooldown faster. If we put it on Zircon, it means he's going to heal more, buff more, give us more, or give us immunity more consistently, give us regen more consistently. If we put adept on Rota, she's just going to do more damage. She's going to increase our skill cooldowns more often. She's going to lower defense more often. She's going to give us attack speed increase more consistently. So having adept on a champion that is contributing on multiple levels on your team makes the whole team better for having had that adept added. And that's really the basics of Steel Widow. At least from my perspective, please, in the comments below, share your insights, share your thoughts. I do want to go and do another video that's specifically going to be on substitutions, but I want to open that conversation up to the community as well to see if there are certain substitutions early game that are free to play that beginner players would benefit from. As always, thanks for watching the videos. Have a great day. Bye.